Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, and I'm with Ben Taylor for my second interview with him as the UK's head of Keller Williams. Ben, thanks for coming to Grantham today. Tell me, for those that don't know, that have been living in a cave, what is Keller Williams?
So I guess you'd say it's a training and technology, extraordinary training and technology business that gives an extraordinary platform for individuals and teams to go and build their own business.
Notice you don't use the word estate agency in any of that.
No.
Why?
Because...
Well, that's what you are, aren't you?
Well, we certainly extraordinarily well support agents, but it's kind of not, if I think about what we do as a business, what I do, mine is a teaching role. Mine is a learn and share what I've learned and teaching people models so that they can have the success for themselves. It's not about, we had a conversation before around, it's an unusual business that it's not about growing Keller Williams, it's about making Keller Williams stuff more available to agents. Because the end customer for those agents, we believe, will get far greater experience, a very different experience when using an agent that's powered with Keller Williams stuff.
So what makes being a Keller Williams agent different to, say, working for one of the corporates?
It's such a world apart, Chris, that they are extraordinarily different. So if you take my history, so I'd run multiple brands, and everything you're doing is you're trying to run a business to be more profitable. Yeah. And our business, the entire thing is geared around how do we help, what do we do to facilitate the agent to be a great business owner? And that's probably a distinction we ought to make, actually, is that we're kind of teaching business ownership. And rather than, so a lot of people say, well, we'll train you to be a good estate agent. Look, it's the number one training company in the world, so we're extremely good at training people to be a good estate agent. But really, we help people think in a way that helps them be a great business owner. Because a business owner is very different.
Who happens to sell houses?
Yeah, absolutely. We do it through real estate. We do it through what we call in this country estate agency, but through real estate. So when I said to you it's a world apart, what I mean by that is it is a different world. It's a totally different purpose, if you like. You know, the goals before of cut the overheads and grow the profit line. It's such a, we joke sometimes about how I almost eulogize about this business. And I've shared with you before that for me, after my first week going out to the States and meeting with Gary Keller and these incredible people out there, I remember asking some of my now investors saying, is this even a real estate company? Because no one was talking real estate. What they were talking about is a model to help you build an amazing life, a way of becoming a hugely successful business owner, a way of training people through systems and models to help them get whatever outcome they want. And never before did I used to say to people, I wasn't walking around blind without a cane, Chris, before, but I never used to start conversations and say, look, the outcome you're getting now, what the model you're currently following, is it giving you the outcome in life that you want? And most people say to me, I'd never even thought of it like that, Ben.
Well, let's be frank, most estate agents, it's all about listings, and the exchange check at the end.
Sure.
Do you think there's a need for people to think differently in agency then?
Do you mind if I answer that by sharing a conversation we had a little while ago? And that is that I have a great belief that people operate in life on a daily basis with degrees of fear. And the ones that have reduced that fear a great deal are doing extraordinary things. Yeah. So I'm a skier, right? So there's a moment on every skiing holiday we go, that should be skiable, but we'd have to find out by skiing it, right? And the chimp in my head says, you don't want to ski that, Taylor. You're 47 years old. It's not going to work out as well for you as, But me being the type of person I am, I don't live with loads of fear. I said, well, I want to experience it enough. I'm not Evel Knievel. I'm not going to just jump off anything. but I think it's doable, so I'm going to get on and do it. But when you apply that to life, business, relationships, if you think about the inhibitive nature of fear, it stops us doing loads of things. So when I say to people, I'll say, look, what would you do in life differently if you knew absolutely you can't fail? And first of all, most people go, I've never thought of it. Once they do start thinking about it, you see them lift. Mm-hmm. You see them, because it's quite an exciting prospect. Well, then I'd do this. And then when you work back from that and say, so if I gave you a model, a system, where I could show you all of these people that have done what you want to do without fear now, without fear, if I gave you a model that would reassure you that you could have that outcome, would that subdue your fear enough to say, I'm going to do that? And the answer to that question is almost certainly, yeah. And then that's what Gary Keller has built, is to say, look, most people want true wealth being a large passive income that allows them to live how they want to live. That's what people want, so they can spend their time with their loved ones and doing the things they want to do, right? So, and those people, by the way, that say they don't want money, then say, well, my argument would be, well, make money and then you can give it away, right? Because so there's always a reason to make money, okay? And what Gary's done is systemize that. He understands that most people live with fear, and he wants to help people reduce fear, because the best things in life happen when, you know that expression, successful people are those people that make a habit of doing the things that make them feel uncomfortable. I don't know if you heard that expression, but it's something I think about a lot, because you know when you're out of your comfort zone, you're going to get great success.
And you're of the opinion that one of the best ways to get the things you want in life is using a estate agency, selling houses.
Well, look, no, that's not what I think. What I think is find whatever the thing is that you want, and find a model. And what I mean by a model is evidence of, if 1,000 people, if you want this outcome, right? Let's say you want X, right? And there's 1,000 people that have all got that by doing that, and that. What we're saying is it's really smart to copy those 1,000 people. And we do it in real estate.
Yet there's plenty of people out there that will join you and probably only do part of the model. What would you say to those people?
Well, so, and we have those conversations. We have a lot of great people that, but what I would say is this, and I'm not a baker, okay, just to be clear, but if I were a baker and I wanted this particular cake, I would follow a recipe of somebody that is really good at making that cake. And I would know absolutely that if I put 9 of the ingredients in, I won't get the same cake. I would know that. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd probably go, oh, Chris, I forgot that one piece. So I'd say the same thing to the agents. If you want to get this outcome, then you have to do these things. If you're willing to do 6 of them, that's up to you, because it's your business. But what we're saying is, I only know that you get this outcome if you do these things, not your version of those things and not a few of them.
So basically, it is a business model for estate agents. Are they employed or self-employed?
They're, well, again, important distinction. They will start as self-employed, and we'll teach them to be business owners, because there is a vast difference between somebody that's self-employed and a business owner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but in essence, they're not getting a wage.
Do they get a wage? No, they don't. No.
But what about this? There's going to be agents out there in estate agency land who, late 20s, early 30s, working for one of the corporates, doing a decent job, got a mortgage, kids, holidays to pay. You're eventually putting it all on the line.
Yeah. You're basically saying, look, let's take the average person, the average estate agent, not the exceptions, the average, okay? On average, they're on a low basic salary. They certainly can't live any sort of life on their basics. None of the agents can do that, okay? And let's say, I don't know what the average commission is around here, but even if you took a really generous average of 10%, I suspect the average is rather less, but let's say it was 10%. 10% actually means, I remember talking to you about this before, I always look at it as saying, how much do you give away? Most agents, when I say what commission, they talk about, well, I get 10%. And I said, well, that's really interesting, because I think you give away 90%. Now, that mindset is really important. So if you're trying to create wealth, and we've agreed, I think it's pretty safe to agree that true wealth is the most important. That's not money, that's time and money, okay, to be clear. If everyone's goal is really that, then what you're saying is, I would rather than risk going out and being truly wealthy, I would rather stay in a place where I can't live how I want to live. Now, for me, will everyone do that? No. But what I want to do is make the system and the model so accessible and straightforward to follow that we get more and more people to say, do you know what, it doesn't have to be like this. I can really have wealth because, and you know, I mentioned before around one of the things with our model, because our system is not about Keller Williams, it's about the agent. One of the things about us is it's the agent, it's their own data. And let's use real words now in terms of data. That means your client list. So if you work in a business for someone else where you give away 90% of your commission, you have a low basic salary, the worst part of that is that for however long you do that, when you leave with nothing, right? Now, what we're saying is, surely the risk of borrowing, let's say the average person, 6 months income to cover their mortgage, to make sure the family can eat, because those things don't go away, right? But to borrow enough money in a world where interest rates are crazy low, and we're actually used to them being crazy low now. You know, I can think my daughter's 20. If she thought of an interest rate of 5%, that'd be outrageous. I mean,
that's cheap.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew? But you imagine being able to, if you can make that easy for them to be able to borrow an amount of money that covers their cost for 6 months, and you give them a system to follow that gets them through that, from then they can really start to build true wealth for themselves.
Give me an overview of what that system looks like.
So it's a before you start. So what we've got pretty good at now in the UK is understanding all the pain points and the fears. The fears is a big one for me because I feel it for them. Right? I understand what they're going through. So what we've tried to do is...
Well, you've put the money where your mouth is and actually invested in the firm, haven't you?
Yeah, really, seriously, you know. This is not a whimsical, this is kind of doing it.
So go on, back to the fears.
So the fear piece, we'd say, so what are the things they need to do before day one? Yeah, I don't want them, when the gun goes off and they start, I don't want them putting their shoes on, right? I want them already running. Why? Because I want the period of time where their income is nothing as short as possible. So what we're doing now is saying, right, we've systemized, do this, this, and this, so that on your day one, when the gun goes off and we start, you already got that feeling of, I've got a good chance of this race, I think we're good, right? We then have that third...
That's really interesting, because there's plenty of people that start their own estate agency, spend all the time and effort building a website and even a shop, and then they get to the desk and go, right then.
Yeah, no, this is the model, right? So this is based on how thousands of people have done it and had great success.
Let's have a look just a little bit under the bonnet.
Sure.
What does that look like? Let's get some value out there to the guys in the estate agency land.
So we put them through a course. We've got some very exciting stuff that we're about to announce actually on a licensing program, but that's not for today, Chris, that's for another time. But effectively, we put them through a truly brilliant course that is amalgamations of, I said to you before, it's the number one training company in the world, so they're actually very effective at training. Yeah, okay. So it's that, but tailored for the UK, with an I, not a Y, just to be clear, right? Tailored for the UK. So it's a training course that will we call it Ignite. Yeah, we're igniting them into owning their own business, and they will literally go through a series of modules that takes them right the way through to becoming, they will have a certain level of database.
And would they be going on that? Would they be going on that course almost whilst they're employed by their old employer then?
No, generally speaking, we put them through. It's pretty intensive, So they would start, and they will go through that in their first 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is, before they start, they know what they're going to be doing, right? And getting certain things done before day one, and then as soon as they join, we don't let them go. Well, they can if they want to, by the way. They don't have to do these things. But what we're saying is, all of these people that got the outcome that you want, they did do it. The ones that haven't had that outcome. So we're encouraging people now to say, look, you must do it this way. If you follow that model, you'll be in this place at the end of month one. We call it 30, 60, 90. So you go 30, 60, 90-day plan, so that you always have that safety of knowing, I'm on model, I'm doing what I need to be doing. And we've got a guy to actually, while we're here today, we've got one of our guys who started his business in April, and I've just seen a couple of pictures actually sent through to me on my phone. He's teaching 35 agents in my market centre in central London how to do what he's done. He's already at a place now where he's listing 5 properties a week, and he launched that business. And here's the beauty, right? He has spent almost no money in launching his own estate agency business, and he's already doing serious amounts of business.
So
And
what's he done differently then?
he's just followed the model.
So go on, give me some clues on what the model is. You have to give something away, mate.
So what I've said to you, the 30, 60, 90-day plan. So the number one thing that we teach people to do,
Nitty gritty, come on.
nitty gritty, is a 135 and a 411. So what is it? What's going to be your USP for your estate agency? Why are you doing this? What's the message you're going to put out? And then literally how you're going to build a database. For us, it is all about a database and cultivating that database. We have something called a 36 touch campaign. So by the time the agent starts, we say, right, here's this your database. Yeah, so this is the people in your phone, the people you know, and we're going to put those people into the database, and we're going to use a touch campaign to grow that database and to farm that database.
So you're ringing your mates up then?
You're literally going to build a database of everybody.
What? Ring someone up and say, do you know anyone that's selling a house?
Yeah, of course.
That's not very English, is it?
It's how to build a great estate agency business. So let's say if you start the business, right, and your mates don't know that you've started that business, there's very little they'll be able to do for you to refer anything to you. Because you might say to me, 6 months after you started your business, you said, oh, it's been really tough, I've been doing this, that and the other. I didn't know you were doing that, Chris. Why didn't you tell me? I've got 2 mates that would have used that. These are friends. These are people you know. Are you going to look after them or not? Yes, I am. Well, why would you be ashamed of telling them?
It's a bit different, mate.
That's why we're creating the amount of success that we are, because of course it's different.
I mean, if you're doing 5 listings a month after 4 months, 5 listings a week.
Is everyone doing that? No, but what we have now got is we've got a growing number of people that have said, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of my own way. I'm going to assume that I don't have this knowledge. I'm going to learn fast, and I'm going to execute on that knowledge.
Do you find long-standing estate agents are not as open to using the Keller Williams model as opposed to non-estate agents?
I think it's hard for people that have had success, because what we do in life, we kind of build a belief system by our experiences. Yeah, what we read, what we listen to, and what we see. Yeah, what we experience. So let's say, for instance, you've been in the top 10% of your estate agency in your area for 15 years. For those people to say, I'm really going to change, there's an argument that says that's much harder. What I think is happening, though, is that a growing amount of people are saying something has to change here, because the ratio of me spending this amount of money to do this number of transactions is looking less and less attractive.
Do you think we need to change as a UK industry?
Well, go and ask the average customer. So I would say, yeah.
What do you think the biggest problems are in UK estate agency, and why do you think Keller Williams model will solve that?
I think you got some really fundamental stuff. So you ask whether it's needed. I think the 2 massive losers in the UK at the moment, on the whole, there are notable exceptions. We both agree on that. There's some terrific estate agents. Some of them are my friends, are great estate agents. But on the whole, okay, the customer, the reason estate agency has a really poor reputation is because on the whole, customers are dealt with as a transaction.
I agree.
Fundamentally, that's a problem. It's because it's the biggest, most important transaction for the vast majority of people. So therefore, to be dealt in a way that it's a transaction is a problem. Okay, so the customer loses. So there's a massive need. Okay, there's a massive need. The other big loser is the estate agent. How many rich estate agents do you know? How many millionaire real estate agents do you know in this country? I know tens of thousands of them, but they're not in this country. Yeah.
Is it because we don't charge enough, or we don't believe we're worth the money?
It's much deeper than that. It's if you say to individuals that you can come, I'll use a silly but extreme example, okay? So if, let's say you're leaving university, you're leaving a top flight university, you got an offer from Goldman Sachs or a top investment house, you got an offer from a big 4 law firm, or you got an offer from a real estate company. In this country, the culture says, well, why would you do that? You'd have to be crazy to do that.
Yeah, because it almost, I don't know about you, but the amount of people I know who are estate agents who kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
No one actually sets out to be an estate agent, do they?
Well, maybe for another time, but when I became, I think I was the youngest managing director countrywide had, and I didn't phone my father for 3 months. Bear in mind, I was like 29, 30, became a managing director. I didn't phone him for 3 months to tell him because I knew it would be a disappointing phone call, right? That's reaching a reasonable level of success.
At 29, that's
Or
going
20, 30, something like that, whatever age it was. But my point was, it wasn't something that even then said, I've done quite well. In fact, those are his words. In a limited field, you've done quite well. Those words, they're not words you forget, right? So what I'm saying is,
How did that make you feel?
I'm pretty robust, so it was okay. It was
Come on.
it was one of those things that I knew that would be the response, right? So something along those lines.
You were kind of expecting it.
I've learned, Chris, over life, I've learned to set my own temperature. I decide how I feel, and that's what I've learned to do. But that's it's another subject. So for me, that's the important element of getting people into that place where they can. We have now the vast majority of agents. You've got a lot of people that are falling into it, and you've got very few people making any wealth out of it. So if the agent's losing and the customer's losing, is there an opportunity to take a system and model that's proven in 38, 9 countries where the agent wins and the customer wins? Is there an opportunity in the United Kingdom to say, it doesn't have to be like that. We can do this so that you win massively and your customers win massively. And that's why we're growing so fast, Chris.
But aren't you just another Remax?
It's the difference is the content, right? So Remax, in fact, I don't even want to talk about specifics, but when you look at the systems and models, just the systems and models, and the number one training company, right? And the fact that we've poured and are in the process of pouring $1 billion into technology that is simply designed to protect the agent's future, it's not another anything. It's a unique business. No one does that. No one does that. If you went to the board of a business and said, I think we should invest $1 billion in technology that's going to help the individuals in our business have more success, you wouldn't be on the board very long.
Yeah. It's a bit like, how many times have you heard an estate agent saying that wouldn't work in my town? Surely the UK's different to everywhere else, isn't it?
So over 25 years, I've had, it won't work in this office, it won't work in this town, it won't work in this county, it won't work in this particular country. And now that's a common one in the group that I'm with.
Yes.
It's really interesting. Lots of people say, well, I can give you the reasons, because that's what we want to do is validate. Mm. I appreciate in the UK, have I proven beyond any measure of doubt that this is going to be an extraordinary success across the UK? No, but can I show you and validate that the reason this will work in the UK is absolute, and that can I show you in a multitude of other countries that are most definitely not the United States of America, France, Portugal, Turkey, not natural bedfellows, and they've had extraordinary success. We're about to launch in Japan. And I've now seen plenty enough to say, it's definitely going to work in the UK. It's just a question of how quickly we can do it all, that's all.
Okay, so you are a company that allows estate agents to earn more money. You guide and you train and you support them in their transition and in their journey with great tech and great support. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you do?
So the reason I joined actually wasn't even that. The tipping point for me was listening to Gary Keller teach a course called Quantum Leap. So I went out to America. I met the guys that are now my business partners. Okay, they invited me out to the States. Went out there, listened to Gary Keller, and Gary stood on stage for 3 hours and taught this course called Quantum Leap. And it is a model to how to build any life you want, right? And Chris, genuinely, it's when I teach the class, I still get choked on certain elements. It has that kind of, I've said to you before, I feel uncomfortable putting that stuff out there, but it's reality. I do. Those who've been in the class could evidence that. So, and why? It's such an amazing thing for somebody that has studied as hard as Gary to say, this is what I've learned about how to build the life that you want, how to reduce that fear that we talk about, how to suppress that and get rid of it out of your life so that you can really live how you want to live. And it's the model that people need, because everybody loves the idea of that, but we all know it's more than, oh, is that just being positive? No, it's going to need rather more than being positive. But if you have a set way of doing it, literally a step-by-step guide to build that life, it makes people safe enough to say, I'm going to go and do that. So for me, this is, do I think we'll change the industry with what we're doing? Yes, I do. I really do, because it's great for the customer and great for the agent. But much more than that, I think we'll help more and more people actually reduce that fear and build a better life for themselves. And that's a grand statement, I appreciate, but
Look, I mean,
I think that's what we'll do.
if you don't mind me saying, you're a very inspirational person, yet you can't be there for everyone or every day.
Yeah.
So how does it actually work in reality? I mean, you have these things called market centres, which I assume is just like a hub or something. How do you get this learnings, this guidance, this coaching, this support to your guys on the front line?
You build a faculty, right? We literally are systematically going about building what we want to become the UK's #1 training and coaching organisation for the industry, right? How do we do that? We train and we train and we coach. I have my own coach, and we are teaching others how to do that.
I mean, if you don't mind me saying, I know a few associates, self-employed agents, and they actually say they get too much training. Is that a good thing? Or is that that?
So an old mentor of mine, amazing human being actually, used to say to me, he said, feed people as much as they can digest, okay, when it comes to training. So we look at this really, really carefully. The training is, what we do is at each market centre, we make sure the training is available. Okay, so the agents choose which ones they should be going to, and our leadership teams in each market centre say, right, so let's say, for instance, you've been out on a certain number of listing appointments, but you're not converting listings. So our leadership team would look at your MI and say, hey Chris, how you getting on? Looked at these numbers. Ben Taylor's running this course, or I don't know, Jason Canner, Andrew Ben, whatever. They're going to run this course on Tuesday. Come to the course, chap, because I think you'll find it amazing help and get that right. Yeah. So we wouldn't say blanket everyone needs to be in everything,
because you can't tell them what to do, can you?
No. We're not their bosses, right? It's their business. They use our stuff, but we want to help you, right? Because we want to help you be successful. So we are going to say, look, we've looked at your numbers, and here's. We can tell you, did you actually go on those 10? Did you get one of them on the market? Well, then let me show you how to get 8 of them on the market, or 6 of them on the market, right? So there can't be too much training, because it's about availability. And what we're doing now is making sure that, one of the reasons we actually have the time to do what we're doing today is because we've got a lot of amazing people in the business now that can do a great job, and I'm sure if some of them are sitting in the room, they'd say better job than you, Taylor, but they can do a great job of delivering amazing content. And that's the richness, is real content.
Is there a direct link between the ones that actually take up the training and do it and the results then?
Yeah, so we use something called a training tracker. It's a systemised company, right? So Gary always teaches us, if you want to do anything on scale, you've got to systemise it. So we systemise, we can track the results of those people that go through the training. So we can say, right, this person's getting this result and they went through this training. And the reason we do it that way is because we want to show the other agents to say, listen, I know you're wondering whether it's worth buying the ticket and coming into the market centre. I want to evidence for you that it is worth you buying the ticket and coming into the market centre, because you can have this result too. Yeah. So, but you have to put that out there for people, really lay it down, because otherwise it's a bit like any other relationship. If you don't engage in the relationship, you sit and say, well, I'm getting nothing back in this relationship. Have you actually engaged in the relationship?
Have failures?
Oh gosh, yeah. We've learned, I would say to you,
feel?
So initially, for a long time, me being me, I used to spend a bit of time. I was talking to we've got a great guy who runs the market centre over in Bromley. Only earlier today, we're having exactly this conversation. But we come from a world of saying, look, we have to do everything right, and if you've set a target, you've got to hit that target. And this world is about failing fast and failing forward, and getting comfortable that you're going to make mistakes. So make them as quickly as you can, learn from them and grow. So for my first year in the business, I was like, why didn't I know that before? Why didn't I, I wish I'd learned that before. Now, I don't waste too much time on that.
Okay, so your one of your jobs is to attract estate agents and non-estate agents.
Yeah, sure.
Into being associates.
Yeah.
But surely another part of your role is to bring in, centre bosses, or what do you call those?
OPs, yeah, operating principles. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you doing to attract those sort of people?
So that's been a
Or
really
who are you
interesting
looking,
one.
who are you looking for?
So those people, like attracts like, right? So we're finding a lot of very special people now come forward and saying, enough people now. When I first came to Keller Williams and I started talking about it, everyone was like, Keller who? Now it's very rare that I meet an estate agent and say they've never heard of Keller Williams. You know, even if they don't know much about it, they will have heard. Not every case, but most. Okay. But what we're finding is a lot of these OPs are reaching out to me to say, is there an opportunity in this town? Is there an opportunity in that city? And so on. Or simply, can I understand what it is?
And what are you looking for in that person?
So those, particularly at this stage of the business, they have to be special. I use the word iconic, but I'm not sure that's the right word, actually. The truth is, they have to be great leaders. They've got to be people that other people will follow, influencers. They absolutely have to be learning based. If they've got a massive ego, they will literally just grow much slower. They won't get as much out of being part of this organisation as and like I said to you earlier, that's quite tough for some people because they run some great businesses. But when you look on a global scale, you know, what I achieved in this industry is okay, right? But when I look at what Gary's achieved in this industry, you go, well, you know, it's a different level. So I'm looking for learning-based people. I'm looking for really good leaders. And I'm also looking for people that feel the way that I described at the beginning of this conversation, that there needs to be a change. There's a better way of doing this for the customer and the agent. If they don't believe that needs to be a change, and can I clarify something here? Because I don't know if you did, but certainly people asked me and said, so you're against the high street. I just want to be really clear. I can care less whether the office is on the high street or not. It just means in the majority of cases, having a great facility for agents is rarely on the high street. But I'm not against that.
It doesn't. I'm of the opinion it doesn't matter where you trade from. It's the mindset of the agent.
Yeah, the market centre needs to be in a great position to make it usable for the agent and a lovely place for them to be. I can care less whether it's on the high street or not. So it's nothing to do with high street or not on the high street. It's about, we're looking for people that says, look, I would like for agents to have more success and build their businesses, right, so that they can deliver something more exceptional to a client. And by the way, some countries have done it really well. I saw Tom Panos, I really like his stuff, and he was talking recently about Australia. He did an interview with Nikki, the lady that runs the market centre in Prime for me, amazing girl. And he was saying that they described it as that they went pro. And I felt tempted then to do it in Australian accent. It's a good job for everyone I didn't, but
you're not very good at accents, so
apparently not. I think I'm great, but apparently all the observers say I'm not. So you know, but the point is, he described it as that Australian agents decided to go pro, and they really did. And when I listen to my business partners talk about how they run their real estate businesses in the US or around the world, they're so good, Chris. And what we do is teach our agents to say, right, that's your normal good level. What would that look like? And show them how to do that.
I came to interview you 14, 15 months ago. The man that sat in front of me today is a different man.
Is that because of the grey?
Well,
because my son observed there's rather more, so that, yeah.
If you cut it, it tends to look, you don't see so much of it.
I can't go shorter than this, Chris. So,
it's fashion. I think they call it fashion. If you find some, would you let me know? What's happened in your life in the last 14, 15 months? Because I can tell a huge difference.
Yeah. So,
if you don't mind me saying, when I met you the first time, you were very inspirational, but I just felt there was a piece missing.
So we succeed through others, right? I've got an amazing group of people around me now. When we met up before, it was a pretty small team, right?
It was. It kind of felt not Mickey Mouse, but just bunch of agents in a top of a Mayfair hotel. Kind of, we've got great visions for the industry, and I thought, hello, here we go. Here's another one.
Well, I'm not going to pretend that doesn't hurt, the Mickey Mouse comparison, but listen, I know what you mean. I think basically what I had was a really clear vision and had an awful lot of obstacles that I was wading through and climbing over. And what you heard in me was somebody that has really clear vision of what this will be, but that tone of voice of, God, we've got to clear some of this stuff away.
I felt something was holding you back.
Yeah. So we also the setup of the business. I wasn't the CEO of the business back then either. We've got amazing people. I've got great investors, but at that time we had lots of people involved in that. And now what we've got is really clear. I'm the CEO of the business. I've got some fantastic investors that support me brilliantly, and most importantly, I have some really special people around me here in the UK. You know, really capable people that are, lots of them are better at certain things than I am, and that we as a collective frankly now do this pretty well.
It's interesting you talk about the collective, because you know you've got some market centre managers, bosses, whatever you call them, who are almost setting out their own furrow, ploughing their own field.
What's really exciting is, so for instance, the people that run market centres on a day-to-day basis. So you've got the operating partners, the operating principals that own the centres and create the vision for the centre, education, resource in that centre. And then you've got these market centre directors or team leaders, depending whichever, that are then driving those centres, and the market centre managers. And those people now, as they're getting the vision and really understanding how big this opportunity is, of course, they're looking and saying, I'm going to be able to own my own centre here. I'm going to be able to build my own businesses. So they're working with that passion of, I said before about the difference between an attitude of somebody that's employed versus an owner is always different, to that business. What they'll deliver, how they'll look after the customer is just a difference, because it's skin in the game, a real stake in it. Yeah. And what I'm seeing now in the leadership teams in the market centres are those people that are looking at this saying, we are going to smash this. We're going to be the Gary Kellers of our territories, and we're going to take this opportunity to all the agents. And that vitality and that energy, you can really feel it when you go to the different market centres. And the calibre, some of these people are coming from big regional director jobs, managing director jobs. These are not kind of people that were wandering around lost before. They were very successful.
You got Andrew Bennin from Spice at Heart. Let's be frank, it was almost an open secret that he was going to be eventually the CEO of Spice at Heart, but it was obvious. I didn't know that, but it's pretty obvious that he was going to be.
Well,
that must have taken some balls for him to move across.
He's, look, I'm friends with Andrew. I have respect for Andrew on friendship level and on a business level, and he's a classic case of absolute validated success. No one could come in and say he has failed, because the evidence says he hasn't.
Why do you think he put everything on the line? He must have been on a six-figure decent salary with all the toys.
Sure, definitely. It's a classic case of all the toys. There's a guy who likes his cars and likes, lives really well. Why? Because there's a number of things with Andrew. Andrew's a very he speak for himself, but he's a very value-driven person, right? So he's about relationships. If you look at his friendship groups, you look at how he builds businesses, the type of leader. And for him, when you come to a business like this that is value-based, there's an alignment, there's a synchronicity, there's a connection there. And what I've said to Andrew in my early days when I came to Keller Williams, I said, I want to change this industry, Andrew. And ultimately that was the big driver for him to say, I think agents can have a much better life than this, and I think customers can have a much better experience than this, and it's in line with his belief system in his own life. So that's a very powerful driver, Chris. So you could say, well, yeah, but I'm risking a salary, but not be funny. Most of us pay 45% tax or 40%, 50% tax. So you're giving away quite a lot, and the upside here, imagine if we achieve even 50% of what I'm setting out to achieve, 50%, and we'll do better than that. But let's say we only did 50%. We'll have left an amazing legacy. This will be something very extraordinary, very special.
Is that what you're doing it for?
For me, look, I'm. That's my big driver. I shared with you before. I love my absolute passion is helping people get what they want, and thinking because there's no greater gift. If I help somebody, I always used to say, as a young regional director or branch manager, I used to talk to our guys, say, we're in a really privileged position. When these guys, back when I was 21, I used to talk about this and say, look, when our people are 60, we have the opportunity to be the person they'll say, I remember working with this guy or that really showed me how to do this.
You can't buy that, can you?
No, what's the price on that? Now, the fact that you win big as well in terms of building your own wealth and a great life, and you help other people, what's a better way of living a life? You're going to leave a great legacy. You're going to help a number of people live a great life. What's the price of that?
There is no price. It's priceless.
And also, loads of people say to me, how come you're always so energized? Because I was like that before I was at Keller. And the reason for that is I only do things I believe in.
Are we going to see more of you in the future?
Yeah, well, you have to be careful how you edit this part, but yes is the answer. So if there's a massive national sigh of disappointment there, I'm sorry about that, but yes is the answer. But the reason for that is certainly not because of my mug. I think we both can accept that that's not the reason. The reason is we're now at a place where we are ready.
Because if you want to change UK estate agency, it needs to be led from the front.
So I've always said I want to create a number of market centres and get a number of agents to be able to show how this works.
I need you at the vanguard, not at the guard's van.
Yes.
You like that, don't you?
I do like that. And that's what we're going to do going forward, because now we're in a place where if 100 OPs had rocked up before, I wasn't ready, Chris. In fact, I've proven that, and there'd be people out there saying he didn't communicate. Now, if 100 people rock up and say, I want to open a market centre, I can actually deal with that. I can actually respond to that.
And do you say yes to most or no to most?
No. It's particularly in these early days, but I doubt I'll ever change with it. I think it has to be a certain type of person that does this.
To be an OP. And one final thought, what would you say to any estate agent who feels not valued or not loving the job?
I would say, whether they're loving it or not loving it, that we should make decisions based on knowledge. Okay, so don't dismiss this before you really understand what it is. So I genuinely would implore pretty much everybody out there to say, find somebody from Keller and go and have a conversation with it. At least understand what it is. If you have a look at what it is and decide it's not for you, then I'm really comfortable you've made a decision based on knowledge, just like life, right? Mm-hmm. But don't say, I used to say to my kids, don't say you don't like sushi before you tried sushi. Now 2 out of the 3, sushi's their favourite food. Whereas initially they were saying, I don't even want to touch the stuff, Dad, yeah? It looks like raw fish to me, yeah? So what we're finding is when people come in and actually take the time to really understand what we do and why we do it, it's pretty spectacular and very special.
And you genuinely believe that you're going to change UK estate agency?
That's the desire, absolutely.
So where will we be in 10 years' time?
In a place where agents are keeping and growing their own businesses, where agents are delivering, where the customer in the UK can actually have choice of really professional, brilliant agency. And that we have a lot of agents that have created true wealth. And that's the big one for me. I'm super excited about that. Super excited.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for listening.
Just for the record, I have not been paid to do this video. I am just an absolute huge fan of the self-employed model, and I've gone on record to say in the next 5 to 10 years, I believe at least 30% of estate agents will be self-employed. I'm a huge fan of the Keller Williams model, although I'm not being paid to say that. I just have found... I've been talking to you guys, been spoken to lots of people, and I just feel the love back. And I just wanted to talk to you today, almost like a catch-up from last year, where you were, to really just highlight and educate the UK estate agency industry on a different path.
And I hugely appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.